This episode of Digital Photography Cafe is brought to you by Focus Pyramid, the autofocus lens calibration tool for your camera.
Welcome to the Digital Photography Cafe. I'm Trevor Current, your digital marketing guy.
And I'm Joseph Christina, your professional photographer.
So grab a latte, pull up a chair, and join us as we chat about the art and business of photography.
So hey everybody, welcome back to the show. Last week we talked about Pinterest secret boards, adding custom thumbnail images to your YouTube videos, and tips for keeping your hard drives clean. If you haven't listened to last week's show, I encourage you to do so. You can find it on our website, digitalphotographycafe.com, in iTunes, listen with the popular Stitcher and TuneIn radio apps, and now you can find us by watching HDTV through TiVo.
Very cool. We are back, Joe. Episode 80. How you doing, man?
Episode 80. We are here. I'm doing well. How about you?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Feeling good. I think I'm finally kicked most of this cold that's been lingering for the last several weeks. Yeah. Sorry, everybody, for listening to me all jacked.
Yeah. You had like the frog in your throat for a little bit, but that's all right. That's all right.
I'll get it one more time this winter, and then I'll be good.
That's not too bad. I usually get it a lot. The kids start getting sick, and it gets nasty. I'm telling you.
Yeah, I know. It's not fun. It's not fun. Our kids went through. Our daughter snuck up with some bronchitis on us. It was like within a day, and all of a sudden she's got bronchitis.
Especially when they're young, right? It's like in a row. It's like, little Sally is sick, and boom, everyone's sick. So
yeah, and then every kid in the class is sick.
Yeah, that's just the way it works. And since I have I have a little one, also in school. He's 4, and it's God.
Yep. You got the preschool germs, man. None of those kids have the antibodies yet.
No. The preschool germs are definitely pretty powerful.
Yep.
So anyway, so that's good. So at least you're feeling better. That's great. You got electric. You feel better. Wow. We're ready to go.
We're good to go.
On top of the world.
Yeah.
So what's been going on with Apple? What is the story over there? They seem like their stock is like just falling, just like the stock market itself lately.
Yeah. Their stock has definitely been dropping. It really hit a high in September.
Right.
And now it's been steadily dropping down in through November. I mean, the article that we found this on in TechCrunch is saying that down to November 15th to yesterday, it's at the lowest that it's been in a really long time.
Right. Yeah. It's like, what is it, off by like what, 30, what is it, 74% increase, or what was it, 30%, I think it was, down?
Yeah, it was, the overall price is up 30% on the year,
right,
which is great. So the year average is higher, but it dropped drastically from the September boost. So,
right,
and the September boost was due to the iPhone 5 anticipation. And that really jacked the price of the stock up because everybody knew something great was coming along. And then, it's kind of, the novelty has worn off and it's kind of after that cycle. And now, they introduced all these other new products a few weeks ago, like the iPad mini, the new MacBooks. Of course, the iPhone 5 is still real hot and harder to get. All these new products that they introduced are really going to show in, the first quarter of 2013.
Right.
So,
right. I don't know. It's it's hard for me. I mean, obviously the stock market kind of baked it in, the release of a lot of these things. They didn't know a couple of them, like they didn't know that the iPad, 4th gen was going to pop out after 6 months, from the, the 3rd gen coming out. But they kind of knew the mini was coming, and, of course the iPhone 5, they had so pretty much it was kind of baked in, but it falling the way it's falling. I mean, I don't know. Okay, so I am a fan of, Apple. I've been using Apple since an Apple II Plus. I still have an Apple II Plus, with the green monitor.
Yeah, the little box.
Floppy drives and everything. But, but I think the luster is kind of, I don't know. Steve I don't know. Ever since his death, it just seems like they're kind of off a little bit. You know, where Steve used to have like a very, you know, when he came back, it was like, we're only going to have these X number of products, very few products. They're all going to be, they're all going to be exceptional. Now all of a sudden we have just a ton of SKUs. You know, there's always been said that, you know, we're never going to do a 7-inch, you know, tablet, and they did the 7-inch. It was always been said that we're going to do a yearly iteration. Now all of a sudden, you know, they went from a 3rd gen to a 4th gen in like 6 months and a week or something, and that pissed, I'm sure, a lot of people off. That you know, their 3rd gen, not only is it, you know, discontinued, but it's gone completely off the line. So you have like a second, you know, the iPad 2, and then you have now 4th gen. You don't need the 3rd gen, just like if they didn't even exist. So, I mean, that's not cool either. So there's a lot of things that have been going on over there that just kind of just doesn't sit too well, I'm sure, with people.
Well, yeah, I mean, the 4th gen iPad was just an iteration of the 3rd gen. I mean, they made it just that little bit better. You know, put the faster processor in it,
and change the
new connector. Yeah. Exactly. And you know, obviously they did it for sales purposes. They wanted to introduce a new product to get the buzz going. But I agree. I mean, those who bought the new iPad, the 3rd gen 6 months ago, I'd be pretty ticked too if all of a sudden this better one, you know, faster processor or whatever came out. Now, realistically, does it make much of a difference to the user? I mean, the 4th gen iPad is going to be very comparable to the 3rd gen iPad. It's, you know, it's still a great product, but yeah, they are creating these new product revisions, it seems, faster now. And are they trying to do like most bigger companies and just flood the market with a ton of products, and, you know, throw a bunch of stuff against the wall, see what sticks? You know, I agree. I don't see the visionary of Steve Jobs in the company as much. I mean, don't get me wrong, the products are still great. Beautifully designed, the functionality is amazing and stuff.
Yeah, it seems like the board is kind of now taking control. You know, where they're looking for where the buck comes in comparison to just creating amazing products. And, you know, as on the photography side, you know, having an iPad to show your work is phenomenal. And that's, you know, I would recommend that to anyone that's a photographer. An iPad, they just look great. It just, it functions nicely. It's smooth, slick. And when you hand it over to a client and says, you know, and say, this is my work, and, you know, the recommendation that I always have is, you know, only show them the work that you're trying to get work for. So let's say if you're, you know, you're going into a company and you're going to be shooting commercial work, well, only show them on your iPad your commercial work, nothing else. But, you know, saying that, I was hoping that the 7-inch iPad would have been a Retina display, and then that would make my work look even better, more rich, you know, more vibrant, more, you know, the pixels a lot denser, and it would just look more liquidy and just beautiful. And instead, we got a 7-inch that, you know, it's just lackluster. It's standard, you know, standard display.
Well, 6 months from now, it'll have a Retina display.
And that's exactly the problem, you know. So March, you know, comes around, all of a sudden we're going to have a 7-inch, you know, HD version, let's say, which will have a Retina display. Everyone out there that just bought the iPad mini is going to be as pissed as the people that bought the 3rd generation that now the 4th, you know, just came out. So that's what I'm thinking, you know, something has gone astray. And now, you know, on a side note, I'm in the market for a phone. Now, I've had iPhones all the time, right? That's my thing. Now, I'm actually looking at the Android as a possible phone. I was looking at like a, you know, like the Samsung, the S3, the Galaxy S3. Beautiful, beautiful phone, you know? So I would never, as, you know, an Apple guy, that I do all of my photographic work, all of my video work, all of my concept, everything goes through Apple's. You know, you would think that I would stay with it. By me just even looking at an Android, that doesn't forebode well. You know, so, I mean, I'm looking at it and I'm saying, well, all right, so let's look at the iPhone 5 compared to the Android. I mean, they both are very similar. They both do the same thing. They're both LTE, period. You know, the Android counterpart, you can go up to 128 gigabytes in comparison to only 64 gigabytes. It has a proprietary cable, which, you know, people are pissed also about having to buy these $30
these cables are 20. I finally got iPhone 5. And I'm very excited about it. But yes, the stupid cables are $20 a piece.
Right. And you need a bunch of
you
them.
need one for your computer. You need one in your car for charging. You need one, maybe I've got mine in my bedroom for nighttime charging.
Right.
And now, what are you going to do? Bring one a cable around with you all over the place?
Yeah.
No, you got to spend $40 extra to get a couple extra cables.
And that's minimum. And that does not include any of the other cables that you might want to get. Maybe you want to get a VGA, HDMI, you want to get maybe the camera cable, which, for me would make more sense,
Sure.
to stick in a card and be able to download it. So this is problematic also, this whole cable issue. Now remember too, to pull data off the iPhone is not that easy. You're going through iTunes, a whole big, kludgy mess. With the Android phones, you just stick in your mini USB, the same damn cable that you charge a thing with, and just dump all of the, whatever you want on, off, however you feel like it, very simply. And then also you have a battery that can be removed whenever you feel like removing it and stick in a larger battery for longer life,
or just be able to replace it when it finally starts holding its charge.
Exactly. So, there's so many compelling reasons. And now, of course, Microsoft, they have their Windows 8 phones that are out there on the market with their new operating system.
And that looks nice. I personally will not get a Windows phone, but the idea of it
I'd be afraid of blue screen of death and have my phone brick or something.
I know those tiles will just all disappear and it'll be a blue screen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. There's no doubt. The Android phone, the Android operating systems, the Samsung Galaxy, that phone, it's nice stuff. It's beautiful stuff. My concern is always, the operating system. With it being an open source, with it being an open source community producing apps and everything for the devices. Not that they're not good. There are some that are great, but there's also a lot of crap out there. And I guess you could say the same thing with the iOS stuff.
Right.
My concern is, how are the apps being vetted? Are they being tested before they're put out there for, anyone to download?
Right.
Most developers, are trying, they make money by bringing products to market. And if they spend 3 months testing an app to make sure that it doesn't interfere or conflict with a bunch of other apps or any of this other stuff, they're never going to get it to market. So a lot of these guys are getting it done. They're making sure that it works on their device and they're pumping it out there. And now you have to worry about conflicts with other apps. You have to worry about everything working properly with the OS. Whereas Apple, to my understanding, does a little bit more of that testing before it goes live, and that's what ticks a lot of the developers off.
Right.
Is that the process just takes so long.
That's why a lot of the photographers also kind of are in the Apple ecosphere, because we just want something to work, and that's it. Okay, so my workflow, I used to use Windows, for quite some time. I went back and forth from Apple to Windows, so I know them inside and out, both of them. I actually have them both in studio. But I tell you what, when you just need to get work done, not playing games, because definitely if you want to go play games, go build yourself a Windows machine. You'd do yourself a favor. But if you just want to get stuff done, you don't want any kind of, problems with, things dumping and whatnot. Just the Apple just simply works. And then it kind of goes down to the phone too. We know that the iPhone is just going to simply work. And yes, you're saying that things get vetted probably a little bit better in that ecosphere. And I would agree with you. The only thing that I'm kind of getting here is that if I'm looking into another phone, if I buy one or not, I'll probably end up with an iPhone anyways, but just by me looking into it means that Apple is somehow dropping the ball somewhere. And
it's not as exciting of a product. It's a nice phone, and for me, coming from the 3S, it's a huge improvement. Right. But anybody that was with an iPhone 4, 4S, the 4S specifically, it's nicer, but it's not all that, much better. The screen is bigger. That's really the best thing that it's got going for it, is that it's a wider screen. So you do now get, true 16:9 on your videos and things like that. But, a lot of the apps are not taking advantage of that wider screen format yet anyway. Exactly. So,
and, this parlays
they're boxing them.
Right. And this kind of parlays into, us going from Aperture to Lightroom and going from, Final Cut into Premiere because, you know, look, Final Cut, they dropped the ball with Pro and X, and they took out a lot of features that we needed. So now we moved into the Adobe, you know, product line, both on the Lightroom side as well as Premiere. So, you know, things that's been happening is kind of, you know, kind of odd. Now, I tell you what, you know, one of the other things that I was thinking about is with camera manufacturers, they kind of do something that's kind of similar. You know, camera manufacturers, they're basically, you know, they're selling a ton of bodies, but they're selling a ton of bodies for what? They're just basically trying to get you into their ecosphere by buying a single piece of glass. And when I say that, what I'm meaning by this is that, you know, let's say if it's Canon, if they can get you to buy an L piece of glass, the chances of you staying with Canon is, you know, quadruples. So that's always their idea.
That's absolutely right. I mean, they've got enough lower end but still very feature rich DSLR bodies, you know, all manufacturers do, for the first timers or the people who are looking to make that initial upgrade from a point and shoot into a DSLR.
Right.
And then of course, you know, they keep adding these nice features to the prosumer line. And then when you start getting into the entry pro line, you know, they've got the features there and everything that level photographer wants. So they keep releasing these new bodies all the time. Last week we talked about the D5200. You know, they're releasing all these new bodies all the time to try and get people in. It's kind of almost the loss leader. I mean, it's not really, but it's almost like the loss leader. They're trying to use these bodies to get you into their ecosystem. And once you start purchasing the glass,
right,
you're going to be a lot more likely to stay with them because realistically, Canon, Nikon, Sony, Pentax, you know, any of the other manufacturers, they all have quality products.
Yeah.
You know, it's your preference, one over the other.
Yeah, it could it could be the UI, it could be, you know, the way things are set up, the way they feel in your hand, but the majority of it is the glass. The first piece of, you know, heavyweight glass, as I call it, that you purchase is usually where you stay. And that's what Apple does. Once they get you in iTunes, buying all of your music through iTunes, you're going to stay.
You're going to keep with the iPod.
You're going to stay, you know, and the same thing, you know, going, that's just how, and you know what? Bottom line, that's really good business. If you can bring people in to your on your side of the game, they're going to stay with you for the most part, right?
Yep. Yeah, unless you do something that's really going to tick them off and push them away.
Right.
Yeah, they're going to kind of just stay on board. They're going to go with the flow. I mean, you're not going to find very many people who have the discretionary income to sell all of their glass at a loss because they can't sell it for what they paid for, obviously.
Yeah.
To move over to another manufacturer's brand.
You really, you're hard pressed to sell all that glass because you know the glass holds its value, but still it's a pain to get rid of glass. I mean, there's been photographers that went from Canon to Nikon, from Nikon back to Canon, and vice versa, and you lose a lot of money. But
you know what? A lot of these photographers are also sponsored.
Yes.
You know, they're getting a lot of this equipment at either for free or at deeply discounted rates.
Right.
They're out there promoting that manufacturer, you know, in their workshops and their seminars. You don't find very many average photographers switching from Canon to Nikon to Sony or whatever because they just can't afford to.
No. Once you're in,
the manufacturers know that.
You're hard baked into the mix. That's the end of it. You're in there.
That's right. That's right. So anyway, you know what, Joe? Let's take a quick break to hear from one of our sponsors. And when we get back, we're going to talk about how Ivory Soap will relate to your photography business.
I like that. All right.
Are you frustrated with slightly out of focus images when you know your autofocus spot was dead on? It's simply not your fault. From manufacturer to manufacturer and even lens copy to lens copy, there are slight variances to the exact spot where light is being focused onto the sensor. Finally, there's a product that allows you to compensate for those variances and make sharper images immediately. Focus Pyramid, the autofocus lens calibration tool, is an absolute must for every photographer. If you want to make the sharpest images possible, then you need to take control over your camera's focusing system. With the Focus Pyramid, you can calibrate all of your lenses on your lunch break. The Focus Pyramid makes lens calibration quick and easy at an affordable price. So give your lenses a new lease on life and take your photography to the next level. Head over to focuspyramid.com/DPC and get an additional 10% off just for being a show listener.
So, Trev, Ivory Soap and photography, how exactly is that supposed to work? I mean, we dirty, clean? What's going on here?
Yeah. So I got this article that came through this week through email. I'm subscribed to a bunch of different blogs and websites, from all kinds of different marketers and businesses, with great information. So this one came through from Jamie Turner at 60secondmarketer.com. And this one was about thinking outside the box when it comes to your marketing and thinking strategically and executing tactfully.
Right.
Is really a key to the success of your business. I mean, so many people kind of just fly by the seat of their pants, or they do what everybody else is doing, thinking that that's what needs to be done. And it's not necessarily always the case. I mean, you really need to try different things. You need to be a marketer. I mean, we say all the time, being in your own photography business, most of the time you're doing business related tasks. You're not doing creative related tasks.
Absolutely. And
if you want to be successful,
you're basically trying to find a way to set yourself apart from the other photographers that are out there that are right around the corner, using the same camera, using the same lighting, in a studio. Yep. What kind of makes you different? And if something doesn't make you different, how can you get people into your establishment
rather than the
sooner,
other guy,
or quicker or first, because, first, as we always say, first one in is usually the winner. If you get someone to you before they get to another competitor, you win.
Right. Exactly. So kind of like in this article, Jamie was talking about a story that his father told him. I guess his father used to work at an ad agency on Madison Ave, back in the 60s. And they basically had to come up with a strategy to, kind of crush a competitor of Ivory Soap at the time.
I love this story. This is good stuff.
Yeah. So basically, the idea of the story, the marketing team at the agency discovered that a competitor was coming out with a new soap product, and they were going to launch it. And if that product launch was successful, it would mean millions of dollars to Ivory Soap's bottom line. So they had to basically come up with an idea, a way to, kind of put the kibosh on it. So it didn't kill the business. So they knew that the competitor was going to, build up their advertising spend, that they were going to throw a lot of money at it to really start driving traffic to the stores to buy their soap. So they kind of, rather than battling money with money, they kind of stepped back for a little bit and, kind of started thinking about who their customer was, what their needs were, and then kind of, built a strategy and then executed it around that.
Yeah.
So
they figured out how dirty people were and how much soap it required to clean their filth.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. The research showed that the average consumer used 1 bar of soap a week, and they knew that the competitor's launch was going to be for 6 weeks long. So their solution was they ran a promotion where if the consumer bought 3 bars of soap, they would give them 3 bars of soap free, which ultimately which ultimately led to basically putting the kibosh on this product launch, because now nobody's going to switch to this new product just to try it when the product that they already know and trust is giving them all this soap.
And they just they don't need it, and that's the key. That is the absolute key. They have they have now stuffed their product onto in the homes, the households of all of these people, because they're getting basically a 2-4. They're getting double the amount of soap, and now you're not going to go and try a competitor's soap because you're not going to be in the market to buy soap. Forget about trying them. I mean, of course you would try a bar of soap if it was if you needed it, but they don't even need it. That's They basically took the need out of the picture completely out of the picture. They don't need soap. It doesn't really matter what they could give the soap away. I don't need it. Maybe they'll take it, but they're not going to buy it because they already have it. So this is perfect.
So what I really liked about this story was this unique thinking out of the box. It's in with most businesses and most marketers, it's their job is reacting.
Right.
They're seeing what a competitor is doing, and then they're reacting to it, and they're trying to come up with a way to one up them. Right. So a competitor starts doing some newspaper ads and stuff like that, or some magazine ads, or local advertising for their photography business, and your natural instinct is, well, I need to do something along the same lines to let them know about me.
Right.
And
kind of like a tit for tat, back and forth, and maybe lowering prices and this kind of thing. When that
that's it.
That's just not the way to do it. I know when we started talking about this, we're like, okay, so now how does this soap kind of relate to what we do in photography, right? And how do we now get our service in the hands of folks, but to an extent or to a degree that they don't need that service from our competitor, right?
That's exactly right. Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, that really is the idea. I mean, as photographers, as designers, as creatives, we know the hardest part about our business is getting new business. Right. Is going out, knocking on doors, finding people that need our services. I mean, that just takes so much time. You have to build a huge network in order to kind of just keep a regular flow of business going. I mean, if you're doing commercial work and you have a couple really good clients, I mean, they can give you some regular ongoing work, but you also can't really put all your eggs in one basket there either. You constantly need to be getting your bookings.
Right.
Otherwise, you're just going to fall by the wayside.
Right.
So, kind of, you and I were talking about this, and kind of, something that we just thought of kind of off the top was doing those that are maybe like, let's say, doing baby portraits. Baby portraits would be an ideal candidate for this type of action. Is something like a seasonal package, or a long-term package. Yeah, something that's not just a package for prints and a CD and this and that. Not a package like that, but a package to create long-term connections and long-term bookings.
Right. So, I mean, let's say we look at the baby portrait type of environment, and we can look at seasonal after, but let's say baby portraits in general. I mean, usually someone will hire you to take, let's say the first picture, they'll have the pictures that they do in the hospital with, some guy, and, they do okay work, but you want a professional, someone wants a professional. So they're going to hire a photographer for that baby portrait. But,
sure.
We know that they're going to also want a picture later on, let's say a month or two down the road, and then they're going to want a yearly, shot or whatever. So instead of just, getting hired for that one, newborn shot, sell them a package, which is the idea, so that it covers from birth to, let's say, 1 year. But so, in other words, now all of a sudden you have that first image, the newborn, then you have, let's say, 3 months, then you have a shot at 6 months, and then you have another shot at 1 year. So maybe it's 4 sessions in this package, and maybe the big climax of the package is at that 1 year mark, you create a book. This beautiful 1 year book that kind of commemorates all the steps, from birth to that 1 year. I mean, what an amazing thing that is to offer to someone, because now, they can actually have everything, they pay that one price and they know they're completely taken care of for an entire year. And at the end of that time, they're going to have something amazing to show for it.
Yeah, exactly. They're going to have something really special at the end of the year. And that's the thing. I mean, you can go out and try and get that newborn gig.
Right.
And then you can kind of, then you can tell them, hey, listen, we'll give you a discount if you come back in 3 months, and we'll do another shot and whatever. But unless you get them in as a commitment, you're not really going to, what's the motivation? Why are they going to come back to you?
Right.
Maybe they'll go to somebody else, or maybe they just won't do it at all. But if you can create this package deal up front, where either they pay you for the entire package all in one lump, or you give them special pricing for each one of the sessions, but they don't get the album until after the last session, after the 1 year. So you can arrange it different ways, but the idea being is you're locking them in for a longer period of time. And then, of course, once you've built this relationship with them, now you can move them into your family portraits for the holidays. You can move them into other things. And of course, while you're doing all these baby portraits and all these things during the course of the year, why not sell them other products? Sell them the 8x10, sell them the wallet sizes, sell them the wall art. You know, I mean, if you've got the products, you can offer it to them, make some extra money in there.
Yeah. So,
but the kind of that carrot at the end of the stick there, though, is that album.
Exactly. That album is the clincher. And, you know, that could be almost like a loss leader for you because, you know, albums are pretty cheap now. You can get them, you know, created very cheaply and really.
Sure. You don't have to do them yourself.
Yeah. And the images are what really sells the album. You know, period. Now, let's say we go into a seasonal type of look on the same type of concept. You know, instead of, you know, we know that towards the end of the year is where people, you know, they want portraits done. So, you know, maybe you sell a seasonal package that takes in account Halloween, takes in account Thanksgiving, and then takes into account Christmas or Hanukkah. And then also the new year. So that could be your other 4, you know, item piece of a package. And then once again, you could have a book at the end of the time, or maybe you can have something where you have let's say your Christmas card or your holiday card might take into account some of the stuff that comes from Halloween and Thanksgiving. Right. That could be, or a portrait for, you know, whatever it is. But this way, what happens is like we were talking about, it kind of locks them in to you and not going searching for another photographer. And then also what that does is it helps you not to continuously have to peddle the streets.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, we don't want to be selling widgets. I mean, we're not selling a widget product. The retailers that sell one-off products, they need customer upon customer upon customer to keep buying these products, to keep making their money. Right. And what happens when a market gets flooded with that product, there's no longer a need. Well, the photography market is flooded. We know that.
Yeah.
And there isn't as much of a need for professional photographers when there's great consumer grade cameras that can do this stuff. But there are still a large group of people that want professional photography.
Exactly.
And there's just so many people out there offering professional photography. So this is where you have to set yourself apart. You've got to think outside the box. You got to come up with something different, something a little bit more unique.
And then basically you're doing just like Ivory did. You're doing the same thing as Canon does and Nikon does by getting you, you know, into their ecosphere. Yeah. And you don't go elsewhere. You know,
I mean, you're kind of doing this thing with your event photography too, right?
Exactly. And you know, let's say, you know, I do a lot of the nonprofits, a lot of the bigger galas that happen in Palm Beach and down in Miami.
And just because they're a nonprofit doesn't mean they don't pay. They pay.
Exactly. They pay.
They still pay.
They still pay. And so what I do is I do it seasonally. So I might do, for example, you know, I just did a very big event last night. Now I have 5 more events with this specific nonprofit, and they're already booked. They're done. It's a one package thing. I'm going to be there for, you know, all of these events, and that's it. Instead of, you know, piecemealing it, and then they have to go find someone else and the next guy. They like me. They like my work. They like how I treat everyone and whatnot. And so they hire me, and then they know that, number 1, they don't have to go look around. They know the quality. Number 2, number 3, they know that those dates are locked down. They don't have to worry about trying to, you know, shuck and jive, and now all of a sudden one photographer, you know, who was $100 cheaper, now all of a sudden he bails out, and now they're looking elsewhere.
Right.
So,
right.
Well,
and the other thing they know is they know what the price is going to be.
Exactly.
And you know what the price is going to be because you've already negotiated this with your seasonal package.
Exactly. So, you know, I think it's good business sense doing it this way. Years ago, things were different. Now the competition is great. Being able to work in packages and give that carrot, as you call it, at the end of the stick, as being an album or whatever it might be, it works out really, really nice. And they know, and if you really were kind of business sense, business mind about it, you can go ahead and maybe make it into a payment plan. There's many organizations out there that will have no problem to say, okay, the package is $1,200 for your 1 year baby portraits. Let's just say, well, here's your payment plan, and they go, you can have them go through a bank or whatnot, and they're paying $100, a month, and and that's it. 12 months, there's your $1,200, and they're done.
Yeah, that's right. That's a great idea. There's no reason why. I mean, you with Squares and the PayPal device and stuff connected to your phones.
Sure.
I mean, you can run credit cards now. You can do subscriptions. You can do payment plans. You can do all that stuff so much easier than what you could before. And you know what? You take a little hit on the credit card charges. In the grand scheme of things, you're still getting the work. You're still getting the bookings. You're getting it on your calendar. And that's really what's important in this economy. You need to keep working.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you can't become complacent because you'll just go by the wayside.
And you don't want to be pounding pavement. You want to be working and on what you love doing, and that's capturing images.
Right.
So whenever you can do your marketing in a let's say a better way, and that's one of the things that are very important is you analyze what the competitors are doing and you use what they're doing to your benefit. And it doesn't have to be a competitor that is in your industry, right? It could be like this Ivory,
absolutely,
from the 60s.
Ivory Soap is totally not related to the photography business, but the idea of what they did is still relevant.
Absolutely. Business
watch
is
the TV commercials, look at the ads, really start looking at what the big boys are doing and even what the small companies are doing, because there's a lot of great small business tactics, local business tactics that work really, really well.
Absolutely.
And there's no reason why you can't do them. Nobody owns a copyright on them.
A copyright on making money.
Yeah. I'd love to own that copyright.
I know, right? That would be nice.
I'd license that out.
Yeah, that's it, and that's social media. It's embraced the new technologies. It's all the sides of social media, from your Twitter, from your your Facebook to your LinkedIn to
having a mobile friendly website.
Yeah, Pinterest to mobile friendly and package friendly. And I would suggest that people put prices on their packages too. I know that it's one of those things. It's like
that's always a hot debate.
It's a hot debate. And, I've been asked this, recently, and, I'm going to kind of make it public as, just make it public. It just doesn't, at this point, it's not going to help you to not make it public. Now, if you're doing commercial work and you're doing work for, let's say, Ford Motor, and you're doing work for Coca-Cola, well, the prices that you give them is going to be slightly different than
that's different.
Mom and pop at the end
that's
of the
more
road.
Custom work. That's more
exactly. But
that's
weddings,
more done by the project.
Weddings and portrait sessions and headshots and glamour work and comp cards and portfolio stuff. You can put that out there. Just put it out there, and people will know how the images that they're seeing. They love them. Now they look at your price and they say, well, it's a little bit high, but I love the images. I'm going to go for it anyways. It just makes it nice and simple, and you don't have to sit there and field, I call them stupid phone calls, like the stupidity, and they come with the, stuff that you just don't want to answer, that you've answered 1,000 times. Put it online.
Yeah, it's a great way to weed out the lookers.
Right.
And the people who are asking for quotes who really don't have the intention to buy.
Exactly.
It's definitely a great way. Because that way when that phone rings, they've already seen your prices, they've already seen your work. Now it's how can you answer any questions they have to make the final decision. Yeah,
like Apple, when the phone rings, the client has already been vetted, right?
Yeah.
like their apps. So so at least whoever is calling you, they definitely are very interested. And they're not just coming in with, how much is this, or how much cheaper can you do it than what is listed? Is that gets to be annoying in itself.
Right, exactly.
So, but exactly right. I hate the term "think outside of the box" because it's just so old and
everybody
played out.
Says it, yeah.
But honestly, look at what other people are doing. Look what other industry leaders are doing, how they're doing it, how they're bringing people in. And once they get in there, in their ecosphere, how do they keep them in there? What are they doing to keep them in there? And then you can look at some of the industry players that are somehow slowly losing people out of their ecosphere. And why is that happening? And don't do that.
That's right.
Take all the positive and just, sweep away all the negatives.
That's right. Absolutely. So, Joe, I think it is time.
Yes.
We head on out. I think it was a good show, some good business stuff.
Yeah, hopefully some good conversation.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, we want to thank all of our listeners again, and the viewers. We're still kicking butt in iTunes here.
Yes.
So we appreciate all of your subscriptions. That really helps us out a lot. And you know what? We haven't asked in a while, but we would love for you to head on over to the iTunes if you are subscribed. Write a little review for us, either on the audio or the video. Either one, whichever one that you're listening to or the one that you're watching. We love those reviews. They really help us out a lot. They help with our rankings. They help get us found, and they help us to grow the show so we can, keep doing it and keep bringing you the information that you guys like,
Yeah, and we definitely want to get out a survey coming very soon. Watch for that either on Twitter or through the site or somewhere, because we really want to hear from you. What type of topics do you want to hear hear about? We're getting close to the new year, and we're going to be doing some refresh in the next couple of weeks too. And so whatever we get from you guys, we give right back. So we want to hear from you as much as possible.
That's right. So anyway, good stuff. So Joe, if people want to connect with you, what's the best way to reach you?
Well, if they want to find me, go straight over to Twitter. That's at Joseph Christina, and that's Christina without an H.
Great, and you can connect with me on Twitter, and it's at Trevor Current.
All right, Trevor, that is show 80 in the can. Wow. Great show as always, my friend. If you guys have any additional questions or topics that you would like discussed on next week's show, send us a message through our website, digitalphotographycafe.com, or you can connect with us through Twitter at dphotocafe. If you're listening on the go, fear not. Everything that we discussed in this week's show can easily be found in our show notes at our website. Once again, keep your questions and comments coming, and we'll talk to you next week.